Beyond the Hub. Today, I'm delighted to be speaking with our principal consultant and one of our co-founders, Eric, about the topic that is on everyone's minds. We can't escape it, adopting AI in business. So Eric's got a really unique perspective, I think. He's, as a principal consultant, he speaks with lots of businesses every day about CRM strategy, and obviously AI is playing a big part of that now. Um, but also he develops principles for BabelQuest, our own business, in around how we should use AI. But he also now is a member of HubSpot's AI partner advisory council. So that means he's getting together with a group of other leaders from partner businesses and talking about how we should be helping our customers to use AI and how HubSpot should be taking that forward. Thank you for joining me, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Holly. Always a pleasure.
Um, Eric, there's so much excitement around AI, but lots of apprehension. A lot of businesses we speak to want to start using it, but they don't feel able to. I think you've mentioned, and when we speak to people, a critical first step is making AI adoption feel safe for people. So I wonder if you can share some practical um, examples of how our listeners can apply their existing governance, like GDPR, information security principles, to their use of AI within platforms like HubSpot or Google Workspace, and how can they make sure that people are adopting AI within those boundaries?
It's a really important starting point, Holly. I think the key is to not treat AI as a completely new beast with its own set of unfathomable rules. It's not the Wild West, right? The reality is the principles of good data governance and security that businesses already have in place absolutely apply on how we use AI. Look, businesses are, they follow certain structures for a reason because they work. So having the kind of organizational control of the things that underpin your business at the minute, the AI, all the same rules apply to that. So if we think about it in the context of HubSpot, for example, so for GDPR, if we're using the HubSpot AI tools for marketing, we need to be even more vigilant about consent, but the consent rules apply. Are the AI-powered segmentation tools replacing those or respecting those preferences? When AI helps us draft email content to be sure it's not inadvertently pulling in personal data in a way that isn't compliant. It's about applying those existing consent rules and existing good practices already to this new way of working. So similarly with information security across HubSpot and Google Workspace, that there are principal systems. It's about access control primarily. Who in your team should be using these AI features and accessing the data that they interact with? You need to ensure the permissions are correctly set. And you've told people how to use them, and you've set expectations in there, and you've told them what good governance looks like. So if we're using something like Google's Notebook LM for project planning, are we confident that the only relevant team members can access those notebooks and the potentially sensitive client information that's within them? A crucial first step is updating your internal guidelines. So we looked at this and thought, well, how would AI principles apply to our privacy policy, our information security policies? And then how could we actively train our team with some practical CRM specific examples, but also internal working practice examples as well? So instead of just saying follow GDPR, we need to say, when using HubSpot's AI to personalize an email, always double check that you're only using data from contacts who explicitly consent to that type of communication. Or when using Notebook LM, remember our policy on not uploading sensitive client data. It's about making it tangible and relevant to their day-to-day activities. Ultimately, reinforcing that human oversight is still paramount, especially when AI is involved in customer-facing communications or handling critical data internally. You've got to remember you're still accountable for what you do with the data. You're accountable for what you communicate. If the AI got it wrong, you have to spot that and rectify it. The AI is your assistant. You can't delegate responsibility or accountability for your job to do it.
Yeah, that's all so true. Really good advice. I think another thing that you've done internally to help us, like going back to when you were talking about then just specific examples rather than saying follow GDPR, you give it specific examples on what that looks like in real life. You held a training session for the whole business a month or so ago which was all giving us really practical examples of these are the tools that we use, and these are examples of where we would be breaching certain security principles that we have. But on that, something that came up in that session was also people asking about, okay, so if the business is using HubSpot and Gemini, for example, what about the tools that they want to use? Because I think a lot of businesses know that their employees, if they've got specific AI tools, but they know their employees are going to be using other tools like or even Chat GPT or Claude alongside the official business ones. So how do business leaders manage those sort of manage people using the other tools that aren't the official business ones?
It's a really good point, and it's probably one of those things that makes businesses feel like they're not able to do this because it's just the simple speed of development on this thing. There's so much stuff coming out all the time, and people are using all kinds of different tools in different places. You mentioned ChatGPT, Perplexity have turned up into this. There's more and more things happening, and these tools are developing so quickly as well. The key bit is to be able to say that for business purposes, what are the primary ones that we use? So we run on Google Workspace. It made sense for us to choose Gemini as the main one that we would start with for business purposes. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use some of those other tools, but be careful about what you're doing with them. So if you're using a free version of a ChatGPT, for example, or something out there, that data is not secure whatsoever. You must not put company confidential information out there. It's like printing out and sticking out on the street. Like you don't do that. It's sensitive information. Don't put it into those models. Paid versions, you've got to check to make sure that the security is in place in there. But you need to have a policy for this. And is it harmful for you to be able to? We have a Friday morning questions thing. It's a bit of a cultural thing here that you could ask ChatGPT, for example, to suggest a good Friday morning question. But what you couldn't do is take all of the Friday morning questions that have ever been asked and load them into ChatGPT and say, here's everything that's been asked, suggest a new one that hasn't been asked before, because that information is proprietary. It's not particularly sensitive, but it is part of our culture, and it will enable you're giving that information away that the company owns out to be freely owned by somebody else. So that you wouldn't do, and you shouldn't be putting company information in there. Likewise, anything to do that's with prospect information or client information, be really careful about salespeople researching clients by taking a client's brief and throwing it out there and getting stuff back out of there. That's then out there in ether. Don't do that. Use the secure internal versions instead. Likewise, transcripts from calls, don't be using them to get them summarized out in those tools. Use something that is actually within the organization. You've got it's from a IT perspective. We checked in the security aspects of it, but ultimately, the the difficulty that we have in here is that if you're thinking about like data compliance, information security, and kind of going down that ISO 27001 kind of thought process, the first level of these things is, have you got a policy? And has it been communicated? The second level is then, can you begin to monitor? And then the third level, like, can you actually enforce these things? When you get to AI, you can't enforce it. You just can't keep up. We just can't. So monitoring those kind of things is also very difficult. You've got to have that foundation layer in to say, this is our policy, and you communicate it, and do you understand? So the important thing here is to be able to make sure that you're clear with your teams that we want you to use AI in order to be able to enable you to add more value to the customer. Whatever what's in line with your business growth goals, your principles, you want to be able to enable people to use it, but you have to make it safe. And the first level of safety in there is to say that we as a company, as a legal entity, we are accountable for what we do. You, as being employed by this legal entity with a position of accountability here, you are accountable for this things. If you get it wrong, it's on you. So don't delegate your responsibility, your accountability to the AI platform, put something out there that's wrong, get the company into trouble and think, well, Google Gemini got it wrong. No, you did. And you've got to be able to make that clear with people. Use some common sense with this stuff. The tool isn't there to replace you. It's there to be able to assist you, but you've got to check. You cannot delegate your accountability to it.
That makes a lot of sense. You spoke earlier also about accountability, but when you were speaking about that, you were talking about how an interesting perspective of how businesses should think about the roles that AI can fill. So you you cautioned against the idea of just replacing the accountable positions with AI and suggested thinking along more along the lines of businesses hiring a temp. So considering the CRM consultancy services we provide here at BabelQuest, your own positive experience in using Notebook LM for project scoping, can you give our listeners some more specific examples of CRM related tasks and processes where this temp analogy for AI could be applied and the kind of benefits that you've seen from us taking this approach and our clients as well?
Yeah. Okay. So the idea of this digital employee from a business owner's perspective, this is a really attractive thing, right? Could we do more with less people? Because particularly in consulting firms and in most companies, one of the biggest standing costs, operating costs of the business is the headcount, is the salary. So there is going to be an attraction to doing that. But it is a red herring right now, I think, because the real power of AI lies in augmenting existing teams by taking on the tasks that are often time consuming but don't require high level strategic thinking or direct accountability for a process or for a customer relationship. So, what I mean by that is like things like senior roles, most operational roles, carry responsibility and accountability for something being delivered, for the process or for the outcome. And they're not really suitable for replacing with digital workers if that accountability and responsibility just rolls back up to the CEO for everything that they do. Part of the challenge is like as you're growing a business, it gets more and more complicated and more complex. And if you can't fit all of that complexity into one head, then it all becomes chaos. So the idea of creating a senior team and having people in these roles is that you are delegating accountability and responsibility into those areas. You can't do that with an AI. It can't become accountable or responsible because it makes errors, right? You still has to come up. And if you just get knocked back up to the top again, then you're just increasing the workload on the CEO and defeating the object of putting those roles in the first place. So I don't think that's where we're nowhere near ready for that yet. I mean, direction of travel, maybe, but ultimately, the whole point of a company is a group of people, right? We want to go and do a thing. The tools are there to be able to help us achieve that. I think, though, the use of AI agents, agentic AI, which is where things are moving very quickly now, this idea of having digital workers could be used as a super efficient temp. So let's think of like a CRM temp that's being hired. Now, in the CRM world, this could look like AI handling the initial grunt work of data enrichment, and there are tools in there, Breeze Intelligence, and all those kind of things. But imagine AI automatically pulling in all of that publicly available information about the new leads that have arrived in HubSpot and saving your sales team's valuable research time. If you think about the stuff that can improve the capacity of your sales team, is reducing the non-selling time. Prep for calls, wrap for calls, they're things that you could employ agents to drag a lot of that information together, to summarize it and to prepare a rep for something which takes them 2 minutes before a call rather than 20 minutes. You do that 5 times a day, all of a sudden you've got yourself another salesperson in terms of capacity that you created. Or thinking about things like meeting summaries, particularly if you're in any kind of consulting sales process, you're having multiple meetings with the same people. So it's not just researching a net new contact, it's what happened last time, who's done what, how do we issue the task in between. There's loads of admin that goes through that you can reduce that non-selling time within those roles. And often those things they turn up in backlogs, they're sat in somebody else's inbox. Anything that looks like it's queued in an inbox, it's sat in a spreadsheet, it generates a backlog. That is an element of batch processing. If you can get an agent to be able to follow the rules and deal with that stuff so it moves through more to get rid of the backlog first, then you've employed a temp to do something. If you then dismantle the agents afterwards and work out, well, how did it do all of these things? How did it manage all these process exceptions? Can you then build automation to be able to get rid of the backlog for good? It doesn't come back again, right? So there's an idea of a short-term deployment of as if you were bringing a temp in, do a job, and then work out how can the job be done more efficiently once the backlog's removed. And these happen all over businesses. Things like using the AI built into video conferencing, things like this, to be able to get the summaries out. This is appearing all over the place. It's cropping up in every single video tool you use. They've all got transcripts, they've all got summaries, and this is racing for. But how do you practically use that and tie it in with everything else? So it's not just another backlog. I've got to go and do something with that summary. Could the action point be an automated to go through to the next step and prepare for the next meeting or issue a task to a coworker, for example? Using things like the like notebook LM as we do it, we can take those transcripts, we can match them with internal process documents and things that the client provides us in a secure environment to be able to ask it questions and help us speed up scoping and make sure that we haven't missed any particular things in that. And we've certainly seen that benefit internally with our project scoping. Another great example of using AI to draft initial versions of customer communications. You know, it may be a first cut of a knowledge-based article in Service Hub or a templated follow-up email in Sales Hub. The human touch is still essential for personalization and tone, but AI can get you 80% of the way there much faster. And I also particularly like asking it questions about, so I've done this, how would you improve it? And asking it getting questions back from asking it, how could it do a better job for me? What more information could I provide it with? I'm also seeing a lot of potential in areas like sentiment analysis, customer feedback within HubSpot service tools. AI can quickly identify trends in customer reviews or support tickets or just customer behavior. I think one of the things I like in this is being able to use the health scores to track and put a negative score on if somebody didn't turn up for the meeting or they didn't answer your call or their delay time, they're taking longer to answer your emails. Just these little signals that engagement might be off in there. Really, really powerful stuff. If you had 100 people working on your account, you could do this work, but you don't. You've got one. How do you get that, make that person the lead on this, but they've got an army of 99 people around them that are digital watching for all of these things. So even things in lead scoring, AI algorithms, and analyzing historical data to help refine the models, making the sales efforts more targeted. The benefits of all these things are really significant, but you can only see that increased efficiency if it allows your skilled CRM professionals and the client's teams to focus on the more strategic work. There's often improved accuracy and consistency in data-related tasks, turnaround times being significantly reduced, and unlocking valuable insights from our CRM data that might have been missed otherwise. So for us and for our clients, it's about leveraging AI to make our teams smarter and more effective, not to replace the essential human elements in building strong customer relationships and driving strategic growth.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there.
It was
There's a
all
lot
one
there,
breath,
Tom.
not an
Yeah,
AI.
yeah, all one breath. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think yeah, that agent approach, I think what did you say? AI
Oh, agentic AI, so agent AI.
agentic AI. Yeah, I haven't actually heard that term before, but I think that's a really yeah, useful way of thinking about it. And that surely if people I think take the sales example, one that you used, these AI tools, they have lots of separate little capabilities. So they can research prospects, but they can also write your sales emails, and they can do all of these, have all these little capabilities. It's really hard for them to get for a salesperson, say, or anyone to get their head around how all of those fit together. But I think looking at it in that agent model must help adoption as well, because you've got a sales agent, you know exactly what they can do. But then rather than referring to lots of different capabilities, it can just refer to one. Um, I think something. Then let's recap. I think we've said a lot. You love talking about AI. But I think then just to recap, if I can pick out three key takeaways from what we've spoken about. So the first one is around the security and particularly the principles. Have your principles in place, communicate them. So from a legal standpoint, your business is covered. But also just your staff, and you're accepting that yes, people will use other systems.
That's a
Um,
reinterpretation of what's already there, right? So you don't
yeah,
have to invent anything, just go and look at what you've got, refresh them. And they're the kind of things that we're helping people do right now. And it was pivotal to us to get that
yeah.
safety.
So to have those principles, and then the second bit is to have to think about it as accountability. So look at where the accountability for certain tasks lay. And I think you made a really good point about if you're letting AI do something that then has to be checked by, the managers and CIOs and CTOs or MDs, then you're not actually saving much time. You need to give it the task that you need to accept accountability, set accountability. for the certain task it's doing and have a really clear path around that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think the last thing that we've just spoken about is that, yeah, agentic AI approach, isn't it? The giving, having in mind a specific agent, whether it's customer service, sales, sort of bring all the capabilities together.
Yeah. I think that the way I'd probably summarize it and try to wrap it up into two things is create the foundation, the safety. You've already got these guardrails in your business right now, just update them in order to be able to make it clear to people that we're still following the same rules. That just gives people a level of comfort and that you're not transforming the world with these things. I think the second point is just beware of the kind of frontier, bleeding edge, kind of latest shiny thing that's coming out of AI because, the idea that the future's already here. It's just not widely distributed. They're hiding in pockets, but the reason why this stuff doesn't get adopted quickly is because it's bloody terrifying. So all of these things that are happening out there, they're looking like really exciting things, but the real power in your business, being very general across everything, is attacking the things that are mundane, the things that people are not doing on a day-to-day basis, the stuff you would have hired a temp for. I mean, the first thing that struck me, because I'm old, right, and I've been around for a while, was remembering that getting hired in temp jobs when I was in my late teens, early 20s, if you walked into an office and there'd be paper stacked from floor to ceiling, and there'd be a set of filing cabinets, and somebody would say, right, there, all of that has got to go in there. Here's all of the rules. And if anything doesn't fit the rules, put it on this pile and we'll go through it later. You've got till Friday, here's 200 quid. Like it's that kind of task in the business. And I know it's not on these, but they're in the spreadsheets. They're sat in people's inboxes. There's loads of work. If we only had the time to do this thing, well, you have, right? You just got to think about it and get the AI to start working on this stuff, but turn it into a process that removes backlogs. That's the bit that's slowing everything down. And that's the bit where you can speed things up, accelerate, and begin to get to transformation. So make it safe with the foundation, attack the mundane things. They're the best places to get going to be able to start using from a business owner's perspective. How do we make an impact with it sooner? Probably those two things are where I'd start.
Awesome. I think we're just about up on time. Thank you so much, Eric. That was really interesting. And yeah, I'm sure we will talk about AI again in another Beyond the Hub because we can't avoid it.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Ollie.
Bye.
Bye.